have right here with us Jermaine Ramirez, a very phenomenal man. He's a digital social media and blockchain pioneer, an award-winning branding and marketing expert, serial entrepreneur, advisory board member, storyteller, author, keynote speaker, the love story between technology and humanity expert. He's a digital pioneer and entrepreneur mind with 25 years of experience and a proven international track record of creating and building leading concepts, ideas, brands, new products, startups, as well as developing and executing fully integrated marketing and communication strategies. He's the passionate, creative, out of the box thinker who pioneers new business fields and markets, acting upon consumer insights and responding to market trends. He's dedicated and an inspirational leader that recruits, builds, and coaches international, multifunctional, high performance teams. He's a book author and seasoned speaker in conferences and seminars on topics like digital transformation and social media marketing strategies and so much more. If I say I will keep talking about this phenomenal man by name Jermaine Ramirez, we will not leave here today. So thank you so much, Jermaine, for being on here today, and I leave you the platform.
Buenas tardes. Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Sandra, and great to be here, everybody. I have I'm going to try and share with you in the next 10, 15 minutes a couple of thoughts and ideas on building and growing your brand and your customer base as a startup. The introduction that you just heard is quite extensive, so I'll skip you that. Now, I'd like to jump straight into one of the biggest problems that we encounter every day. In my role as co-founder of the Relevance House, we work with startups every day, and we support them in their branding, communications, and marketing efforts. And we therefore spend basically the day and our lives since many years around startups and helping them. And there is something that we always observe, and that is a little bit of, well, one of the key messages that I'd like to leave with you today. Now, when it comes to building technology companies and building products and building great services, startups tend to be the ones that excel at everything. They are faster. You guys build faster, better technology, much more creative and light services. However, when it comes to building a successful company, it's not only about building a minimum viable product or a great service. It's about building a minimum viable business, which is a different story. And something we always run into is branding, marketing, communications is possibly the most underestimated field in when it comes to venture building. We keep on hearing all the time, and this is a typical statement we hear from founders that have gotten to a certain point and go like, yeah, but we've come all this far without marketing. And you go like, yeah, but you have no idea where you would be if you've done things from the beginning. And one of our observations and one of our the key challenges that we observe in this context is explained by this picture. Usually, a startup entrepreneur comes from the technology side or comes from the market side. But when it comes to building a business, when it comes to anything that's related to branding or to marketing, I would say that a tech founder taking or making marketing decisions is like a beer drinker buying wine. Everything looks the same, and you have no idea why is that more expensive than that other? What is the difference? And you really do not know. In there, and here is where a lot of mistakes happen. And actually, over the past 25 years, helping companies build their brands and startups grow, I've actually come to the realization there are 5 stages that most times we observe startups go through. And I'll briefly take you through the 5 stages of failure when it comes to branding, marketing, and communications in building brands. The first stage is the ostrich. This is, when you start and you have that amazing product and you might have heard that before, you might have said it before, or even believed it yourselves, like, our product is so good, we need no branding, we need no marketing, we don't need anything, because it's so amazing. People are going to come and just take it. That's the one that basically is ignoring how decision makes and the importance of branding and marketing, and that's oftentimes one of the reasons for failure or early failure in startups. Then let's assume you've managed to go through your friends and family round, or maybe your first angel money is in, and then you start becoming a little bit more of a company, and maybe left the garage and rent your first office, and then you move into stage 2, which is the quick and dirty. Just like, let's have someone on Fiverr build us a quick logo, let's build a quick website on WordPress, set up a LinkedIn page, more, that's all we need, right? So let's a couple of quick fixes and that's it. That's all you need. And that might take you to a certain degree, but it doesn't really help you build a brand and build a customer base all around it. At some point, you might get into the situation in which startups, oftentimes around the month number 12, month number 18, around going to market, or right after, going to stage number 3, which is what I call the Swiss Army knife. This is where, and you hear like, oh, we've hired one person dedicated just to marketing. It's like, wow, that's amazing. Actually, our experience shows that building a brand and a business takes between 2.7 and 3.9 fully dedicated experienced FTEs, consistent of 8 different profiles. But yeah, sure, I'm sure your Swiss Army knife with 3 to 5 years experience in marketing will basically build everything and do everything. And then you hit your Series A, you start getting some serious funding, pressure from investors starts getting in, you start expanding slightly your market, and then it's kind of, you keep the logo because you liked it, but you rework your website, you hire an agency to do that, you hire another agency to do that, you promote your Swiss Army knife, 3 years experience marketeer into the CMO position to be in charge of the growth strategy, and then you start hiring right and left, and then you end up creating exactly that, Frankenstein experience, something that from far away looks like it was a human being, but you get a little closer, it's indeed. Oftentimes, if you pass through this, and this is a statement that I've heard before from founders having reached a certain situation in their market, is like it's stage number 5, which is the disillusioned. And I've literally heard more than a dozen startup founders come to me and say, no, marketing, no, we've tried that. It doesn't work for us. And that's like, sorry for my French, that's so bullshit. If you don't do it right, nothing is going to work, no question, right? But just the statement is like, we try that and it doesn't work for us. That is simply wrong. So do not fail your great product, great vision and efforts because you underestimate the importance of building a brand and building a customer base right, ideally from the beginning, but definitely before you reach stage number 5. So how do you build and retain, sorry for the typo, a successful customer base? And the first thing, other than there are 3 key messages. The first one is do not underestimate the importance of branding, marketing, and communications. But within that, the second most important one is do not confuse a product and a service with a brand. Right. So especially at the beginning, you speak about your product or your technology, your solution, your invention, your whatever it is that you're building or developing, and you actually throw that straight into the target audience. But that is not how it works. In order to successfully build, not having half an hour to speak to every single one of your prospects, but especially as you start growing and your customer base, and as inbound marketing becomes more important, as you reach the tipping point in which more people are coming to you than you are coming towards, that's when branding, marketing starts becoming absolutely decisive. And what you have to do is stop talking about your product and your service. Try to find or distill the essence of what it is and translate that into a brand, because companies sell products and services, but customers, users, consumers, whoever you are targeting, they buy brands. A brand is a promise, and it's packed in a story, and that's what people buy. They don't buy your product. They buy the promise of what your product will solve or address or improve or get rid of, and that packed in a relevant story. Now, one of the main challenges that we encounter today is that there is a lack of attention. So when you try to translate your product, your vision, your idea, try to boil it down into what we call a post-it pitch or a tweet pitch. And this stems from the profound belief that every good idea fits on a post-it, and if it doesn't, it's not a good idea yet. You might have heard, and probably have, you practiced it yourself, elevator pitches. But I believe elevator pitches are dead because elevator rides are too long. So try to boil down the essence of why the world needs what you are doing in 280 characters. Write it down in a post-it. If it works, then you might be onto something. And you might have a story that might be able to be told. And when it comes to then bringing that story across, many startups have oftentimes the romantic belief that it's about David against Goliath. We're a small startup changing the world and disrupting and that's what's going to get you a lot of sympathy points. But sympathy doesn't get you customers. And do not underestimate the difficulty that people will have in changing their current habits today. And oftentimes, just because your product is better, it doesn't mean it's going to be more successful than what's currently out there. The history of our evolution is cluttered with great stories of significantly superior products that failed in absence of being able to convey the relevance of why to change. So if you believe that by being small and by wanting to change the world, then people are going to gravitate towards you, think again, because you're going to have their sympathy, but you're not going to get their business. And what you want is their business. So how do you get their business? How do you build your customer base? It's about relevance, right? And try to answer, as mentioned, in a poster, write down, why does the world need your stuff? Why does the world need what it is? Technology, or what it is you're building is not going to change the world, but what we do with technology, with your idea, that might. And that's specifically that first step. Build that core of your brand. And once you have it, it's all about relevance. You need to build that customer base and grow your brand in the market by focusing on building relevance. And in order to do that, you need to basically address three key drivers of it. These are the three reasons why anybody would ever become your customer and you would retain them as a customer, right? First of all, it's visibility. You need to be present and be seen where people are. Right? So you can't buy what you don't see. So you need to build that visibility. Oftentimes, here is where startups finish their job. They're like, okay, let's spend some money on advertising, and get our message out there. And that's going to give us visibility. And the rest, we have the best product in the world. But that's not what it is about. You need to, at the same time, also build credibility. Credibility you will build by having other people writing about you, by having maybe influencers positively reporting about you, by getting people in a community, your customers, to engage with you and to recommend your product to others, etc. But the most important core is value. And this is something that has a lot to do with what it is that you talk about. And most of the time when it comes to startups, they speak about themselves because that's kind of what keeps them busy the entire day, right? We reached this milestone. We've hired this person. We're going to be present on that event. We now have a new release of our product, so-and-so. And that is all great for anyone who already loves you, right? But if you're not focusing on addressing your mom or your dad or your partner and want their recognition, if you actually are trying to get customers, you should focus on things that are relevant for them, right? Not for yourself. So stop talking about yourself and start talking about why anybody should care, right? So a couple of tips about getting that across and building your customer base. So first, create content. Write, but when you write, don't tell me how great you are all the time. Don't tell me you reached this milestone. Don't tell me, no, prove it to me by talking to me about things that are relevant for me, about insights, demonstrate your experience in the marketplace, how well, that you anticipate trends, or write to me about things, or write posts, communicate, share things that are interesting to me, not to you, right? That's the first step. You have to make it professional. And this is something, it's very tempting to cut corners. And we hear it's like, yeah, but you have to understand we are a startup. It's like, well, But again, do you want my sympathy or do you want my business? Because if you want my business, you are competing against really well-established, trusted players. So if you're trying to change anything, you are going to have to come across as reliable and professional as they might be, because it's about building their trust. Again, it's not about sympathy, it's about building a customer base. Now, another challenge here is, fish. We say fish where the fish are. It's quite difficult to cut through the noise of social channels, depending on your target group and your product, whether that is on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever are the channels. But this is where people are, and this is where you need to be present. So opening your own site, community, and trying to get people to get engaged and active there, it's not necessarily going to be. You have to be better than whoever is there and fish where they are currently already. Now, you have, as mentioned earlier, in terms of creating your brand and your credibility, you need to speak to the press, to bloggers, to influencers, and get your community, get your customer base eventually engaged, if that is possible. Obviously, that works for some products, doesn't for others. And make sure that you are out there on events, on stages, and visible and tangible, and other people speak about you, because that's going to go a much longer way. And last but not least, make sure you measure the right things. There is a lot of, and we're quite active in the blockchain space, and there we see a lot of what we call vanity metrics, or what people call vanity metrics. And it's really, at the end of the day, no matter what business you're building, it's not about just awareness, it's about the boring, traditional conversion mechanics of any business. So you need to get your brand across, you need people to go and like and understand what it is that you do, and you need them to want to go with you. And last but not least, it's not about just social media or ads or this or that. Well-run marketing is a symphony played by an orchestra, and it follows a score. Your score is your strategy. Your orchestra is all the people that work together and know what they do and are building your brand and your customer base. And your symphony, well, that's your story, which hopefully is a great story. If you need any help building your story, feel free to get in touch. And other than that, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Here is the first question. What are some good questions to ask clients?
Thank you so much, Jermaine, for...
Oh, Sandra came, Sandra went. Oh, Sandra's coming back.
Okay, I was going to say thank you so much for this presentation before we move into the questions. And I believe there's a lot of take homes that people can have. I love the one that you said, a brand is a promise delivered in a relevant story. That really, really was a great take home for me. And the aspect of fish where your fishes are. So don't be going where octopuses are when you're looking for fish. Don't be going where rhinos are when you're looking for fish. Go to where your fishes are. And that really is a great take home to me personally. So we're going to move directly into the questions. And I believe you already saw the first question. What are some good questions to ask clients?
It's a great question. I'm not 100% sure how I understand it. If it's referring to us as an agency when we support startups, and one of the key questions to ask clients, which for us is extremely important, is what is your motivational driver to build this company? What is driving you? Because there are many different types of entrepreneurs, and again, it's not a surprise to many, especially or particularly in the blockchain, NFT, DeFi, metaverse space. There is oftentimes a lot of hype in these industries, and the motivation for founders might be greed. If your motivation is to actually really deliver an impact and get across and change and make a difference in the world through your solution, your technology, your vision, then it's excellent. Then obviously that doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but at least you are material that can be worked with. If your motivation is to very quickly try to complete a fundraising or launch a token and just make money and see after, then it's fair enough. Then there's another question coming here. what's your take on startups with just outbound lead generation? It's a very interesting question.
Thank you so much. I think that answers the question. And the bigger one is what is driving you, like you said. The next question from Miller. That was which is
Yeah, what's your take on startups with just outbound lead generation? Understood. It is a business model. It's, to me, it's a very dumb business model, to be very straight. Why? If you are able to create some, a story, a brand, a value proposition that attracts people when they hear about it, then demand eventually will come to you. If you don't, and every single person that you sell to, you have to approach directly and convince directly, the scalability of that, even if you work with very inexpensive call centers, or the scalability of that is significantly lower, because you're going to need an army, and at the same time, it's also going to mean that there are several or different types of target groups. Well, you will never get. We all get outbound calls. To me, maybe to answer the person back, he's like, how do you react when you get outbound calls from a call center? Cold calling you saying, hello, we have developed a new software. We're looking for people who would like to try it. It's like, I hang up right away. I hang up immediately, and most people I know do. So if that is the only, if that's the only path to market, you are missing the opportunity to build a brand and something that is attractive, that gets the demand to you. If you have to carry the demand out, you can do it. It's just less scalable and less attractive, I guess. My personal opinion, by the way.
wow, wow, wow. Very beautiful. What do you need to know about your client?
Everything. The way we operate at the Relevance House is that we are invested ourselves in every single project. So based on our business model, we need to know everything. So we really undergo an entire due diligence for every project that we work with. That has to do with our business model, which is what enables you to work with startups, delivering world-class service, but still at rates that are affordable to them by simply sharing in the success. And because of that, we have skin in the game. And if you have skin in the game, you really want to know everything. Maybe a trick in here: if you're branding, marketing, or whatever agency, it's not asking you all the questions to profoundly understand your business model and what makes you work and so on, then maybe they don't care enough. So maybe you need to replace them by somebody who would actually care. More questions? No more questions? What is the best approach to showing disagreement with your? Oh, sorry, that seems like the previous question. Yeah. So, Sandra, maybe there are no further questions. Very good. Then thank you so much for your time, your interest. Feel free to reach out to me. You'll find me, online. All the very best. The world needs entrepreneurs, so keep it going. Thank you.